Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Boxing Along the Beltway. Our news and notes for this week, and as we have the last couple of weeks, had a lot of things to talk about, and some great information, great news coming up in the near future, as well as some of the recaps we've had this week as well. We're going to recap the bouts for Lamont Peterson and Thomas Williams Jr. last week in Cincinnati, Ohio. Also do a brief recap on the Golden Glove. I want to talk about one particular boxer who really impressed me this past weekend. Excuse me, still battling this cold. Excuse me. Also going to get you ready for the bouts featuring, I'm going to remind you about the bouts featuring Hurd and Lontez Fox. And we do have some wrestling tributes I need to get out. We lost three major players in the world of wrestling over the past couple weeks, and we're going to give tribute to them at the end of this podcast. Beltway Boxing News and Notes brought to you by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, from shoulder pain to muscle strain and everything in between, Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the fast, strong, plant-based ointment. And if you go to www.freepainoffer.com and buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief, you'll get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. Well, the Beltway has a brand new champion. Not necessarily a brand new champion because he's been there before, but this is his third world title now in his second weight division. We're talking about Lamont Peterson out of Washington, D.C. He won a nice 12-round unanimous decision over David Avenessen at the Center Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, on the campus of Xavier University. And for a guy that's been off 16 months, I really thought Lamont Peterson looked strong. And he really did. I was kind of worried about him going inside with Avenessen because Avenessen, I should say, was a very good inside puncher, but really, Peterson did it. And he really did it well. Those body shots were unbelievable throughout the bout. And, one judge had a 115, 113. A couple of judges had a 116, 112 twice. It was a great bout. Great win for him. I mean, it shows that he still belongs among the elite fighters now in the 147 division, which is, I think, maybe the most loaded division in the business right now. When you look at the bout coming up March 2nd with Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, you've got Kell Brook and not Amir Khan, but a Kell Brooks fight coming up. I can't remember who he's fighting just that quickly. But Errol Spence. Kell Brook and Errol Spence coming up as well. Amir Khan still in the picture. Now Lamont Peterson's back in the picture. You're talking about a loaded division at 147. It is fantastic. And Peterson is indeed right smack dab in the middle of it. So his third world title yet. He did win an interim WBO junior welterweight title a few years back. Of course, he was the WBA and the IBF super lightweight champion at one time, and now the WBA regular welterweight title holder. Of course, Keith Thurman has the WBA super welterweight title, not the super welterweight title, but the super welterweight title, which somehow overshadows the welterweight title. I have no idea what that means. I really don't. It's ridiculous. But be as it may, he is a recognized world champion, and actually he is supposed to get the winner of Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman on March 2nd, and we'll see what happens, but a great win. I mean, just the body shots and shots to the head, but especially the body shots. The body shots really was, for me, the difference in the bout against Avenessen. So, great win for him. No question about it. Great win. So, congratulations to Lamont Peterson, and we have a whole lot of regional world champions and regional champions and world champions on the list right now. And actually, I put a list out on Facebook and forgot to add Alexandria Marine's regional title. So, we just have a lot of them, and we're looking for two more next week. We'll get to that in a moment. Before we do we have to talk about Thomas Williams Jr.'s bout against Sir Marcus Brown. And I love Thomas Williams Jr. I think he's a great boxer. I've known his family for a long time. And the one thing I have to say I noticed about Thomas Williams Jr., that he does not handle adversity well. And when I say adversity, it's things that don't normally happen in a boxing match. And I guess you're not supposed to handle that stuff because it doesn't normally happen. But sometimes it does. And the really great fighters seem to overcome that. And I know a lot of people who are complaining that the referee should have disqualified Marcus Brown for hitting Williams not only on the ground while he was on the mat and had his knee on the mat, but also hit him in the back of the head. That should have been for disqualification, and I'd buy that. I have no problem with that. But I really don't have a lot of problem with him not doing it. So it could have gone either way for me. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, in the second round of the bout, Brown hit Williams with a right jab, just knocked him to the canvas. But Brown, for some reason, did not see that it wasn't one of those fall down on his back or fall face first type of knockdowns. Williams just went down to one knee. His glove did touch the canvas. And Brown, for some reason, didn't see that. I don't know why he didn't see that, but he didn't see that. And he hit Williams while he was down and hit him in the back of the head while he was down. And the referee gave the 10 count and then penalized and took 1 point away from Brown for doing that. Gave Williams the full 5 minutes to recover. Again, I think it should have been it probably should have been a disqualification. I'm surprised that the Williams camp did not protest a little louder than they did. But having said that, Williams had time to recover from that. He couldn't, apparently, according to what he said on Facebook this week. He could not recover from it. And I guess it's understandable, but to get at that elite level, you really kind of have to, in a way, and really try to find, at least adjust the game plan. And the reach was the major factor in this bout. I mean, Brown had like a 2.5-inch reach over Williams. And in this case, it really worked in Brown's favor. In the fourth round, Williams was going to the body, doing very, very well. And then Brown hit Williams with a vicious counter left hook and dropped Williams again. He got dropped again with a straight left hand in the, it was a counter right hook, excuse me. And then a straight left hand dropped Williams again in the sixth round. That was the bout. He probably could not recover from the back of the head. They should have made more of a stink about it if that was the case. But he lost. And again, it was his third loss in his pro career, all by knockout. And 2 of the 3 bouts, the first loss he had and this loss, were losses where he had to face adversity. I mean, Stevenson just beat him, but I thought Williams, for the round and a half that he was in there, fought very well against Stevenson. But the first loss and last loss Williams has taken, he did not take adversity very well. And I think that really cost him, and I think it will continue to cost him if he cannot make adjustments, if that camp cannot make adjustments in situations such as those. So I hope he's still a player in the 175-pound division. Hope he can get some bouts and kind of work his way back into contention, much like Peterson did. We will see. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. But it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Williams at this stage, because he's lost to really some quality people. And it looks like, as of right now, he's having a tough time getting to that elite level right now. So we'll see what happens down the road there. Also over the weekend, Scott Cujo-Sigmund won about 8-round unanimous decision down in Greensboro, North Carolina, against a guy named Dave Merkett. Now, I'm curious to know how this prepares him for his April 1st bout against Luis Arias, which is for the USBA Middleweight Championship. Luis Arias, by the way, is a former national amateur champion. He was not a world title contender. He's undefeated right now, 16-0. But I don't know how this fight prepares him for Arias, who is a pretty good fighter. No question about it. So we'll see what happens. April 1st in Minnesota, I believe that fight will be. And so congratulations to him with a good win and good opportunity getting there. And to Sigmund's credit, Sigmund's losses, he has 10 of them, have all been to elite fighters. I mean, he's lost to the likes of Kelly Pavlik, Ron Gavil, Matt Korobov. I mean, he's lost to some really quality people. And even the loss to Jesse Nicklow the first time around, Jesse wasn't an elite fighter, but he was a quality fighter, very close to being a contender at the time Sigmund lost to him. Sigmund would come back a few years later and beat him in a rematch. But, all of his losses really have been to quality boxers. So, it's good that he's in that position to get a USBA title, especially with 10 losses. It's very good to see that. So we'll see what happens in that bout April 1st. Now, let's go to the amateurs real quickly. The Golden Gloves. Golden Gloves kicked off down at Rosecroft Raceway, and that's where it'll be all throughout the time. No Sugar Ray Leonard this year, all Rosecroft Raceway. If general seating for $20, children under 12 are $5. Nice atmosphere. It's not as crowded as Sugar Ray Leonard. The crowd that we got Saturday at Rosecroft with a packed Sugar Ray Leonard, a lot more elbow room now. So you think about coming over, please come by, especially this week. This week is interesting because, again, it's more of the juniors and novices going at it. But they have promised me that you will not miss the Jared Hurd fight. They will be showing the Jared Hurd fight. That'll be on 8 o'clock on Channel 5 in Washington, D.C., Fox Network around the country, and Fox Deportes as well. They'll be showing the fight at Rosecroft that night, so you will not miss the fight as you come down to Rosecroft. Again, juniors, and what I found interesting this year was that there are a couple more TKOs, stoppages, than I'm usually used to, especially in the junior division. But there is one young man who I had to pick a star of the night for that particular night. Young man's name is Damari Filson. He's out of No Excuse Gym. That's the gym where Lamont Roach Jr. comes out of, and some great boxers come out of there. And he's 11 years old, and he was going to the body, back up to the head, back down to the body. I mean, he looked. And I was during that fight, I was sitting next to Ricky Womack of the Tony Valley Association. And he said he looked like a grown man up there. And he did. He looked like a grown man going to the body, going to the head, taking his time and doing the damage. He's got a first round stoppage in his bout. I've seen Damari over the years as a real little kid. And I was very impressed with him on last Saturday. So the Golden Gloves continue this Saturday, 7:30 at Rosecroft Raceway. The Washington Championship will be on April 1st. We'll have the coverage of that one on Box On Beltway, Google app for Android, and the regional championship will be on April 22nd. Right now, we don't think we're going to get the championships there for the regionals because there will be a pro card that night at ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia. So we'll see what happens with that. So you can support the amateurs. This is the best way to do it with the Golden Gloves coming up all throughout the month of February, into March, and early April. Now, let's turn our attention to this Saturday. Of course, reminders that on Saturday, February 25th, from the Legacy Arena in Birmingham, Alabama, we've got Jared Hurd going after the IBF Super Welterweight Championship as he takes on Tony Superbad Harrison out of Detroit, Michigan. That's the co-feature to Deontay Wilder and Gerald Washington. On the undercard, it won't be on TV, but it will be on the undercard. Alantez Fox going after the WBC US NBC Middleweight Championship over against Ronald McNeil, who is from Birmingham. So Alantez got to really got to be on his P's and Q's. He's facing a hometown fighter in that situation, so that's always a interesting situation, and hopefully that'll be one that Fox can overcome with his talent. So that'll be on Saturday, February 25th. And that'll be from the Legacy Arena in Birmingham, Alabama. The telecast will begin at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. And that's Channel 5 for those of you living in Washington, D.C. I believe it's Channel 45 in Baltimore. So you'll be able to see it live. And again, if you come to Golden Gloves on Saturday, you will not miss. I've been told you will not miss the Jared Hurd bout. It'll be shown live at Rosecroft that night. Now, coming up also, of course, we have March 11th. At the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill, Maryland. All three of the Gary Russells will be in action. Gary Russell Jr. defending his WBC Featherweight Championship against Oscar Escandón. Antonio Russell will be on the card. And the debut of Olympian Antoine Russell on that card as well. That's March 11th. Jermell Charlo. Let's get the Charles mixed. Jermell Charlo will defend his title on that card as well. Saturday, let's go back. Saturday, March 25th at the UDC Physical Activity Center campus at the University of the District of Columbia. Brian Dillon is saying that Dusty Harrison will indeed be on that card at UDC. Demond Nicholson will be on that card. Franchon Cruz will be on that card. Looks like Tierra Brown will be on that card as well. Jerome Quigley, who is co-promoting the card, will of course be on there. I think Kobe Abridi may be on the show. I'm not sure. But should be a very good card coming out on March 25th. And some of the boxers, and Brian Dillon put out a Facebook Live post today. And I appreciate some of the comments he made about me, and I throw him right back at him. He's done an outstanding job. Definitely one of the best matchmakers I've ever seen in this area. No question about it. And he wants these guys to try to step up a little bit, at least, and fight. He's not going to bring anybody from Wilson, North Carolina to fight these guys. They're going to get some tests. So look for some great bouts from UDC on March 25th. Friday, March 30th, will be at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland for the Baltimore Pro Boxing card there. It's a Pro-Am show with Jake the Snake Smith doing the promoting there. I said Saturday, April 22nd from the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia. That's a Ponytail Promotions card, and that also means Tori Nelson will be on the show there, and looking for some great things as well. So that's a brief look. And, of course, April 8th, don't forget April 8th, at the MGM National Harbor with Vasily Lomachenko taking on Jason Sosa. Mike Yes Indeed Reed is scheduled to be on that card, as is Patrick Harris scheduled to be on that card as well. So we're in a good place, looking for more champions. Strap season 2017. That's what it seems to be right now. And have a lot of guys with a lot of belts. And, of course, Travis Reeves going to Australia on March 18th. And trying for another regional title there. And so just a lot of good things going on in this area. Oh, one other thing. We just heard about this. And I've been told the contracts aren't official on this, but both sides to have agreed to this. It looks like Lucas Matisse will be heading back. He'll be heading back as looks like a junior welterweight. And on the Canelo Alvarez, Julio Cesar Chavez bout card, which is May 6th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Matisse is scheduled to make his return on that card. His opponent is scheduled to be Emmanuel Transformer Taylor out of Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland. So I talked to his father over the weekend, and he says the contract has not been signed yet, but both sides have verbally agreed to the bout. So we'll see if that bout comes to fruition. But right now, it's like May 6th in Las Vegas, Emmanuel Taylor against Lucas Matisse. Now, before we go to the wrestling, let me just say something about Juan Marshall. Juan is doing much, much better. He is talking. He is walking around a little bit. He's actually in a new hospital. He's over at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, where they have a wing devoted to people who have been suffering with epileptic conditions. And they're still trying to figure out whether or not Juan Marshall is an epileptic. He had seizures a couple weeks ago, and that put him in the hospital. So he may not be with us for a little bit as far as being next to me as far as doing broadcasts over the next few weeks. But he will be there in spirit, of course, watching the shows. And I know he's anxious to get back to doing what he loves with the boxing in the Beltway area. Excuse me. So he is doing much better. If you go to my Facebook page, you can get a contact on how to get in touch with him and say hi to him at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So he's doing much better. So thank you all. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks for your well wishes. I got a lot of asking questions about how Juan is doing at the shows. Not only the live show we did at Rosecroft, but also this past week at Rosecroft with the Golden Gloves. Everybody asking about him. They really love him. I love him too. He has meant so much to me just in the short time we've worked together with the development and enhancement of what we do with boxing along the Beltway. So it is great. Fantastic. And I know he's doing much better. So I just want to let everybody know about that. Now, onto the wrestling side a little bit. And it's a sad duty for me this week because we have not one, not two, but 3 tributes to give out. 2 of them are really tough. One of them is tough as well, but 2, I spent my whole wrestling fandom watching these 2 guys. I did them for a little bit. But the first one we lost this past Saturday was a guy by the name of Chavo Guerrero. His first name was Salvador Guerrero. Actually, he was Salvador Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero Sr. There are many great families in wrestling. Of course, we know about the Anoa'i family, which is the Samoans. The Rock's a part of that family. All through Rikishi and Umaga and the Usos are part of that family. And Roman Reigns is a part of that family. And Nia Jax is kind of sort of part of that family. The new young lady in WWE. They have a long history of professional wrestling. And there's also the Von Erich family, who were a great family. The Colons with Carlos Colon, Carlito, and Epico and Primo, who I think are their tag team now. I can't remember that. They got a new name now. They were Los Matadores and a couple other teams. I can't remember what they're, Shooting Stars or something, Shining Stars, something like that. Well, another great family in wrestling, the Funks, of course, with Dory Sr., Dory and Terry Funk, the Hennings, Larry the Axe Henning, the late Mr. Perfect Kurt Henning, and now Curtis Axel, the Ortons with Bob Orton Sr., Bob Orton Jr., Randy Orton, Barry Orton. Now the new WWE champion is Bray Wyatt, and his father was a great wrestler by the name of Mike Rotundo. His brother is a wrestler by the name of Bo Dallas. He is the grandson of Blackjack Mulligan, which means he's also the nephew of Barry Windham. Okay, so he's a part of that family. Now, down in El Paso, Texas, there was a family called the Guerrero family, led by the father, Gory Guerrero, and he was an outstanding wrestler and an outstanding promoter as well. And I first heard of Chavo Guerrero Sr., of course, as I said, through the magazines. Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and all the other magazines that were there, Wrestling Eye and Wrestling Review and all that. And I always heard about this guy, the $1 Million Champion, Chavo Guerrero. And never seen him at that time. He was wrestling primarily in the Los Angeles area. And he was wrestling with the likes of Roddy Piper. He had a major feud with Roddy Piper. Huge feud with Roddy Piper. And he was known, as I said, the $1 Million Rookie, the $1 Million Champion, great fighter, great wrestler. Many people say he was the first person in America to do a moonsault off the top rope. He was outstanding. He really did a great job of using that lucha style that he learned in El Paso and in Mexico, and combining it with the what they call the catch-as-catch-can style. That's what Gordon Solie used to talk about in America, in most of America anyway. So Chavo was the first, and he did well, won junior heavyweight championships and so forth. And then his 2 brothers came into the ring, and that was Hector Guerrero and Armando Guerrero. They would go back and forth from heel to face every now and again. And I finally got a chance to look at Chavo in the old UWF territory. Hector, that was Mid-South, Hector fought in the Mid-Atlantic territory under his own name. And then he also became a character called Lasertron. And it was funny because as Hector Guerrero, he couldn't beat Denny Brown for the world junior heavyweight title. But as Lasertron, he did. Never figured it out. But anyway. And so it was great to see them. And then finally in the AWA territory, Chavo, Hector, and Mondo all came to the AWA territory. And you want to see some exciting six-man tags. They were fantastic. And it was so fun to watch. And they would tie their opponents almost literally in the knots. Okay? So it was fantastic. And I never forget, the Guerrero brothers did an interview with Bill Apter, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated press conference. And I remember Chavo Sr. saying, We know we got a brother coming up. We got Eddie coming up. And I got a son too. So it just keeps going. Sure enough, a few years later, here comes Eddie Guerrero, the youngest of the Guerrero brothers, and Chavo's son, Chavo Jr. And both became of course, Eddie Guerrero became a tremendous wrestler in both WCW and WWE. Chavo did well in both as well, but not as well as Eddie. Eddie is heralded to this very day. You know, his passing was so unfortunate. And when Chavo Jr. had a real good run in WWE, Chavo Sr. came in and they called him Chavo Classic. And that was his last run as a wrestler before he retired. He really set a new standard for a lot of these luchadors and flying guys that wrestle today. Chavo was one of the first to do that. And we definitely mourn his passing. You know, that's a big loss to wrestling. However, the other two, these were part of my childhood. These were part of when I first got into wrestling. These guys were there, and they stayed there. And you know, they wrestled in my territory, which was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it now. And that's where I knew them from. And we lost them really on back-to-back days, which was really sad. But the first one, of course, George the Animal Steele. There's not much more I can say about George the Animal Steele. It hasn't been said already. A lot of people did not know at that time that he was a graduate of Michigan State University, very intelligent man. And he also coached high school football for many years in Michigan. In fact, the stadium where he coached is named after his real name, Jim Myers. It would have been great if it been called George the Animal Steele Stadium. That would have been funny. But no, it was called Jim Myers Stadium. And we just knew this guy with this huge amount of hair that Vince McMahon loved to call fur. And the bald head, all this hair on his back, all his hair in the front, and of course that green tongue he had. And of course him, when he just for no reason whatsoever at times, just attack a turnbuckle, just rip it to shreds with his teeth and throw all the stuff at the cameras and all the stuffing out of it. But actually in the early to mid 70s, he was a legitimate threat for Bruno Sammartino's world title. Or Pedro Morales' world title, especially Bruno. He and Bruno had some great matches. And he was legitimate wrestler. I mean, he even spoke a little bit better back in those days. He didn't just yell and scream, "Hey, you!" No, he didn't do all that. I mean, he did that, but he also had some words together with that too. And he became more of a character in the 80s. But in the 70s, he was big time. He really was. And he was great to see. In the 80s, he became a lovable character. Of course, people remember his feud we had with Randy Savage over Elizabeth. It was kind of Beauty and the Beast thing they were trying to do with them. And that was an interesting thing. Of course, he was the second for Ricky Steamboat on a bout that's going to have its 30th anniversary at the end of March. I cannot believe that. And that was, of course, Randy Savage against Ricky Steamboat. Steele was in Ricky Steamboat's corner that night in Pontiac, Michigan, not too far from his hometown, Detroit. He was just a great character. That's what he was. I mean, he was really a wonderful character. And when he was really legitimate, I guess as legitimate as pro wrestling can be, he was a big time threat. You really thought that one day he'd win the world title. But as the years went on, he really became a lovable character without being annoying. He was not an annoying character at all, I don't think. I remember when they did that piece on Saturday Main Event, people talked about him going, being in the Detroit Zoo, and he and Gene Oakland were talking about different wrestlers and comparing them to some of the animals that were in the zoo. I mean, that was a crazy skit, but it wasn't wasn't ridiculous. I don't think it wasn't ridiculous. It was funny. I thought it was kind of funny, actually. But he was a great wrestler. He really was a fantastic wrestler, and it's a shame that he is gone. So George Animal Steel passed away this week, and then the very next day, and I talked about this briefly when I did my tribute to the Rock and Roll Express getting into the Hall of Fame. By the way, speaking of Hall of Fame, congratulations to both Teddy Long and Diamond Dallas Page. Well, I think people had said he was going to get in, but Diamond Dallas Page and Teddy Long are also going to be inducted with the in the Hall of Fame. That's going to be a great class, it looks like. Kurt Angle, Rock and Roll Express, Diamond Dallas Page, and Teddy Long all going into the Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame. That's a great class so far. So I hope they really kind of finish it up. And hopefully they may put, even though he is gone now, the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. Now, I mentioned on the Rock and Roll Express tribute that Ivan Koloff was not doing well. He had liver cancer and had it for a long time. Apparently, he'd had it when I met him in 2011 in Atlanta, and he didn't say anything about it. And I don't think too many people knew that he had it, but even at that time, because he had it for like 10 years. But Ivan Koloff did pass away this weekend as well. And you talk about a guy that was a major villain. Oh, goodness. And again, I mentioned in the last time I talked about Ivan Koloff how more than 22,000 packed Madison Square Garden in January of 1971 and saw what still many consider the greatest upset in wrestling history when Ivan Koloff defeated Bruno Sammartino. Sammartino had been Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion for more than 7 years, and said 22,000 people fell silent when Ivan Koloff pinned Bruno Sammartino come off the top rope with that knee drop. In fact, the ring announcer at that time was afraid of a riot and did not announce Koloff as the winner that night. That's how, for many people, how real it was back then. Okay, it looked a lot more like a sporting event than it does now. And you got to understand that in that time period. Koloff would go on to win the NWA World Tag Team title 5 times. I know he won it a couple times with Don Kernodle. He won it with Nikita Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev. I don't know who the other two were. I have to look that up. But he was an outstanding villain. I mean, his connections with a lot of great Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA, Ric Flair to a lesser extent. He fought them all. I mean, he really fought them all. I remember he had a sort of weird feud with the Iron Sheik. He was going under the name of Hussein Arab that time. Hussein Arab, that's what they call him. That's the way they announced it back then. And they had an interesting feud around the time too. And later when he became a good guy, he went up against these guys called the Russian Assassins and Paul Jones. He might have won a world title with Paul Jones, the tag team title with Paul Jones, I'm not sure. But he was a great wrestler. He was just stockily built, but he could do everything in the ring. He really could. And great promos. One of the weird things when I met him in 2011, I think I told the story that when I met him, I was doing an interview with him, and I was doing the setup to the interview, how he beat Bruno Sammartino, blah blah. And I said, and we're joined by the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff, and he did his Koloff voice, and he said, "Oh, you act like you do." He didn't act like he said it. He said, "Oh, your voice sounds wonderful. Do you do broadcasting?" It was just so cool. I mean, it was an amazing moment for me. And even though we didn't get a chance to do the interviews as well as I wanted to, because he had to take a phone call, it was just being in his presence was amazing. And that's why I try to get to these wrestling reunions. Because wrestling, like boxing, is a very big part of my life. I mean, I grew up watching pro wrestling from like the 7th grade on. Before that it was roller derby. I don't know if y'all remember the way roller derby used to be. Not like it is now with the women in it, but it used to be women and men back in those days. We had a great team in the area called the Washington Cats. And, when roller derby kind of faded away at that point, wrestling came in, and I got hooked on it in the 7th grade, and I never stopped. And never stopped getting hooked on the old stuff. Now, this stuff now I'm not as fond of for a lot of reasons I'm not going to get into right now, but the old school stuff that I grew up with meant a lot to me. Still does mean a lot to me. And so when I go to I try to get to these reunions, especially if they're in the area. I try to get to them because these guys are starting to kind of leave us now. And in fact, at the 2011 event in Atlanta, there are now 4 guys. And all 4 guys I met, which is interesting as well. No, I take it back. 3 of the 4 guys I met who were there are no longer with us. Okay? Roddy Piper, that was the one I did not get a chance to meet. Although I have a picture of him talking to Ole Anderson. I didn't get a chance to meet him. I did get a chance to meet Jimmy Snuka. I did get a chance to meet Nick Bockwinkel. And I did get a chance to meet Ivan Koloff. And now all 4 of those guys are gone. And that is why I go to these things. That's why they're very important to me. And I talk about them here on this podcast because of that reason. And I know it's boxing, but, this is my podcast. I can do whatever the heck I want to do with it. And these guys are very important to my life. I mean, they just gave me a lot of fun. I still watch their videos, a lot of their videos on YouTube, their videos, of course, on the WWE Network. And when I get down and not in a great place, a lot of times I watch wrestling and it really cheers me up. It really does. And the guys I mentioned today, Chavo Guerrero, Ivan Koloff, and George the Animal Steele, they were always there for me in that particular point and really helped me out. So, that's why I spend time making tributes to them because of that, because they really mean a lot to me. So farewell to Chavo Guerrero, George the Animal Steele, and the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. They were some great guys, no question about that. So that'll do it here for Beltway Boxing News and Notes. Remember, the Boxing Law and Beltway Google app for Android brings you Boxing Law and Beltway's news and notes. And it brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief, the fast plant-based ointment. You go to www.freepainoffer.com, go buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. Again, let's wish Jared Hurd and Lantes Fox well as they go into their championship bouts on Saturday night. And of course, we'll be live. We won't be live on the podcast, but hope to see you at the Golden Gloves this weekend in Rose Golf Raceway in Fort Washington, Maryland. Have a good time there. Some great young talent, guys. And if you want to see where our next wave are coming from, these are the guys. And in about 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years from now, you're going to start hearing these guys' names. In much the way you heard the guys that are there today. These guys went the same route. And look where they are today. So we'll see what happens. So hope to see you at the Golden Gloves as well. Until then, I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world. The boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.